Thank you, Ellie, for the introduction. And I would also like to thank Julie, Hazel, and Emily for the introduction to Open On Demand, so I can skip that part. And this work, the work that I will show at the second part of this talk, was mainly developed by Christian Bustello, which is working with us from 2 years now? No, 1 year, approx. And he was focusing on the Open On Demand development. So there. But I have first a question for you. Who is using Open On Demand? Lift your hand. I know. I will lift my hair. I know that you have to lift your hair. You have to lift your hair, and you have as well. You have, and you have too. Okay. I was expecting a bit more, actually. I was hoping to have something more. But, okay, so my talk is not finished here. You should have lift your hand as well. Okay, that's about you. And what about me? So you know already that I'm Erika. I work as a computational scientist in HPCNow, but I was one of those bioinformatics users that don't care about performance. I just cared my job to be done, to be started as fast as possible. As soon as I hit the wall of payback and of having to rerun simulations because I removed stuff from a storage location that wasn't backup, then I did start caring about performance. But before of that, I just wanted to do something. I'm a biologist. I didn't know anything about HPC, anything about Linux, anything about clusters. I was using R, plain R, on a Windows desktop. When I discovered RStudio, I was amazed of the possibility that were there. But I knew nothing. And my supervisor doing the PhD told me, go and run your analysis on an HPC. And I was like, okay, what's that? At that time, I had to become an expert in scheduling, HPC, how to run my bioinformatics analysis there, and how to run bioinformatics, actually, because there was also training in there. I had to learn how to tweak the scheduler flows for me to be able to have my jobs done faster than the other users. My life would have been completely different if Open On Demand was there already. This was my workflow. I had my workstation. This pointer is not showing. I had my workstation. I connect to the login node. At the very beginning, I was running stuff on the login node. I didn't know. Then I started using the scheduler and the interactive sessions, of course, because it was what we have to do. But I didn't know that. And then, ta-da, I was moving data back to my workstation to run further analysis, to make the plots, to do what was really needed to me to get the publication done. How I was doing it? Samba mount at the beginning. Then I mount the file system directly to my Linux workstation. And I was having a copy of the scripts. I literally had 2 folders, scripts and cluster scripts, which was a copy of scripts, but with the change needed for me to run the same script that I was starting developing on the cluster with all the samples that I have to run to. Easy wasn't there back then. I couldn't use the same app stack. I was just running something, and I was doing make, install, or running a binary. I didn't care about performance. As most of our users, they do not care about performance. Then Open On Demand arrived. And all those users, like me, they didn't care about performance. They just want to have the job done. They want to run RStudio, getting access to their data. They don't have to copy that anymore. They just go to Open On Demand, open RStudio. If they want to check that this is running, they were going to check if this is running. And then connect to RStudio, having access directly to the data on the cluster. No mounting, no moving, no latency-ish. It depends where you spin your instance. And no need for double copy of the same script, which is error-prone, which is very prone to a problem with reproducibility. And this also happens for the users that are more Jupyter-like. I wasn't using Jupyter at the time. I don't even knew that Jupyter existed at the time. I didn't using it. I wasn't using it. But with Open On Demand, you don't have to know HPC to do HPC. Well, to do HTC, actually, because it's more like getting access to big storage and to do your high throughput analysis there. With Open On Demand, everything is easier for people like me that have no knowledge about computer science, no knowledge about Linux, no knowledge about HPC at all, to get some job done without making messes, without blocking your code, your queue, without issues. Okay, so Open On Demand is about the user experience. As a user, I don't have to know HPC to do HPC. And Open On Demand allows that. As Hazel told already, we can have students using Open On Demand in classes. I gave a lesson a couple of weeks ago, and we asked the students to SSH into the instance that we had for them in a cluster, and they were like, what does SSH mean? They don't even have a clue of it. I had to connect with my Windows computer, open a Windows PowerShell, SSH, so that they can copy-paste without even knowing that. And this is also true for researchers and for industry professionals. It's a web access to an HPC. You don't need to install anything. At the time, I had to figure out a way to load the data that I had in a cluster directly with a graphical interface to my computer. There is no need of that. Just go to a browser, whatever browser. Julie show us the Tesla browser on the Tesla and the console browser. And you can get access to the HPC, meaning it's compatible with any device. At that time, when I was doing research to check that my jobs were running or if they failed, I had to install on my mobile phone an emulator, a terminal emulator, to submit those couple of jobs that failed before the other colleagues go to the office. Because you know that before 8 or before 9 a.m., if you submit something, it enters right away. This is not needed with Open On Demand. And also, it's very easy to use. You just go to a browser, you log in with your credentials, and you click on an application, and then you click again on when the session is open, and you're in. You don't have to know anything else. And as already told by Julie and Hazel, is configurable, is flexible. You can customize it up to the user level. You can deploy your own application because maybe you want a different version of Jupyter or a different version of RStudio. Or you want some very weird application that only you know, but it's a graphical interface application. You want it to be spinned into the HPC. You can deploy it and have your personal profile, your personal interface that nobody else has. And also for us, on the other side, that we have to set it up, it's also a good experience. First of all, it's free and open source. No licenses. No problems with license, no problem for the next 10 years that they are going to at least keep supporting Open On Demand. And as already said before, there is a large open source community that gives support throughout the day. It's configurable. Not all the users are the same. We can put in front of the users different interfaces that fit better their need because of the application, because of the documentation they have access to, because of the type of support that you give to your users. Maybe you have different group of users and different groups that support the different group of users. You can redirect them. And they don't have to change the profile, and they don't have to change a web page. There is a single point of contact. And also, we need the feedback of you, of us, to know what to develop next, what is important next. As Carlos has said before, maybe some way to suspend the sessions and then resume them can be a possible next project to work on, or other implementation and priority that come from the user community. And also, it's an ongoing development project, meaning that the problem that you have can already be sort of solved, or there might be already a part of the community working on it. And you can go on the web page, on the GitHub issues, and see that maybe some solution is already there, or some idea of the solution is already there. Half of the work is already done. Also, it can work on top of different workload manager and batch system. We talked a lot yesterday about the schedulers versus Kubernetes and Slurm versus Kubernetes. Open on Demand support both, and also other workload managers and schedulers, meaning that in case you are transitioning from one scheduler to the other, you are transitioning from the HPC to cloud, the users can likely don't be aware of it, because you do it behind the curtains, and they just click on it, and they don't know that they are spinning a session into a completely different infrastructure using completely different options for the scheduler. They don't have to know scheduling to run the interactive session that they need, the graphical interactive session that they need. So, I was talking about deploying your own applications and about the fact that there are a lot of applications, there is a lot of support, it's an ongoing development project. What are the applications that are currently supported, that are currently available in the Open on Demand? In Open on Demand? Well, quite some. So there are different kind of applications. There is from TensorBoard, RStudio, Jupyter, Visual Studio Code, Mathematica. I don't have any idea of most of half of them what they are doing. But they are there, so if your users need them, you can just take the template from Open on Demand, introduce it in your setup. Obviously, you have to point to where the application is installed, and to tweak the option of your scheduler for the session to spin in the proper way. Because if you need a GPU, of course, you have to tell Open on Demand that you want the user to be able to select or not, if to request a GPU or not. But then, it's already there. You don't have to invent the wheel again. And more will come. For example, WebMO, Git, and a bit far away in the future, OpenStack, and also Cloud Object Storage. This is not an application properly. This will be more a tweaking of the file explorer that Hazel showed us. Instead of showing the files on the file system that you're working on, it will be showing the files that are stored in some bucket somewhere. Obviously, the user have to have the credentials to access those kind of data, but it will be for them, for the user, from the user's perspective, it will just go to the top bar, click on File Explorer, select some way to switch from the local storage to the bucket, and then access the files, which sometimes from a user that don't know nothing about the command line interface, it's a way to see what they have there, if they don't have too much files there. We also contribute, as Jordi already spoiled a bit earlier with the question. And here we have a picture of Ellie, Jordi, and Alan from Open on Demand at the last supercomputing it was in Denver, but last year in Denver. So we are contributing also to Open on Demand application list, and this is the work of Christian. So he's working on including also Nextflow. In this case, the application will run without opening it. So the user, they just have to put their Nextflow pipeline file and select the resources that they have, spin it, and after some time, they will receive an email or a notification that their job is done, and they can select the output from the File Explorer or wherever they like to, RStudio, for example, or Jupyter. Also, we are working to introduce Grafana. Like we already see in this morning, the monitoring, it's something that is coming. It's very useful for us monitoring the system that we're working on, and for also the users to see if they are allocating properly the resources that they are requesting to. And as a user that had no idea about that, it's something that can help, because you inherited your script, and you're running it, and you don't know if it works in a good or in a bad way. it ran. It entered. I had to wait a little bit more, but I don't even know that I was waiting. And also some other tools. And then Christian, in the latest week, he was working on these 3 features. This is very, very, very work in progress, like literally this month work, which are opening files from the file explorer into the application you want to see the file in, submit some CLI-only application, not only GUI application, through a web form, and then the one that I liked the most, that was embedding web pages in the Open OnDemand interface that makes it the single point of contact from the user to the HPC or the cloud instance or whatever you want to connect your Open OnDemand interface with. So for the File Explorer, with a little bit of JavaScript knowledge, it is possible to change the way in which this button works, and you can open the file directly into the application that you want your file to be viewed. It's saving some time to the user, so they don't have to go to File, then navigate through the folders, and then select and open the file, which can save time. For the CLI submission that Christian was working on, it's more of a more of a way of ease the life of the user by showing them only the input, the output, and what they want to do, so they don't have to know the options to go from their input to their output. This is something that have to be more tuned by us, and it really depends on your community. In this case, it was just converting a PDF file to HTML. And maybe you don't know that with Pandoc you can do that, but you need to do that. And you can ask your sysadmin to configure it for you. But it depends, again, on the user community needs. And last but not least, embedding web page in your interface. In this case, we are showing Grafana. So you can see that you can modify, as you will do in the Grafana interface, the time and the interval, the time of refresh and the interval that is shown. And it's just an embedded web page that is retrieving the content real time from the HTML page where this is come from. This is true for Grafana dashboards, but it's true also for example, documentation. So the user don't have to go through different web page, because to connect to the HPC, I have to go to my fantastic Open OnDemand instance.hpc.edu. And for the documentation, I have to go to this other page that I have to have bookmarked yes or yes to have access to how I have to run this. So at the end of the day, Open OnDemand allows you an HPC web access to the HPC, an interactive web access to the HPC. You also have the console, which is something that that can be useful mostly for new users that they don't have an idea of Linux, but sometimes they might need it. And it's seamless. It's really easy to use. You can have access to the HPC, to the applications, to the file management, to the command line access, and to all the graphical environments that sometimes are not that easy to be connected to the HPC. And with this, I finished. I will have one more slide, but first I want to thank the Open OnDemand developers and all the contributors. If you develop an application in Open OnDemand, please contribute back. This is the main motor and main gasoline of open source, and also mostly to Christian, which is working very hard on it. And it's making our life, mine first, easier to work on the Open OnDemand instances that we are working with. As I promised, one last slide. So I'm part of the Women in HPC initiative, which was also one of the sponsors of this event. You don't have to be a woman to be in Women in HPC. Anyone can be part of Women in HPC. We just want to let people know that we exist. There are men and women in HPC. We will be in the future just HPC, because there will be no need anymore to show that women in HPC, we actually exist. And mostly, I'm part of the MAR chapter, which is recently founded by Eli here and Marta in BSc. If you want to get in contact with us, here is the QR code of our webpage. and our email, our LinkedIn, and our Twitter. We are trying to organizing new events. We had a workshop in October. The idea is to have some more interaction with the community, but it's something that it's growing. We are very young as a chapter. So if you are interested, please contact us. We are there, happy to collaborate and happy to work to show that we exist and we can do great science, great technology, great HPC. Thank you.
Thank you, Erika, for this super nice presentation about what we did in OnDemand, and also for showing the March chapter of Women in HPC. So we work a lot, not only the founders of the chapter, but all the participants. We spend a lot of time, and it's growing. So we have plenty of time for questions, discussions, and also for a wish list, the things that you want to have in OnDemand, that we can consider to put that in our roadmap.
It's about women in HPC, not about OnDemand. Erika, what is the March chapter?
So the Women in HPC, I want to move it again. The Women in HPC initiative, it's a global initiative, but we have local chapters to allow the local community to gather in an easier way and to have a faster checkup with the community. We cannot only meet at ESC or supercomputing. It's better to have someone locally to gather and interact, discuss, exchange ideas. So Eli and Marta founded the March chapter, which is a mix of Mediterranean and around idea. So we are not only Spanish chapter, we are not only Iberian chapter. So we decided to call it Mar because it's in the name of the sea in Spanish and almost in Italian and almost in Latin, because we want to go across all the Southern Europe and Mediterranean regions. So the idea is to have a local point of contact with the women in HPC in your area.
Peaks. Yeah.
It could be that.
No.
We cannot be the pigs chapter, Mediterranean area, including countries that they are not eating pigs.
Putting my chat in there. The idea was saying Southern Europe, but we say, okay, Southern Europe is quite boring. Let's put another name. We're thinking Mar or Mare or something like that, but Mare can sound a lot to Mare Nostrum. I say, no way. Then we say Mediterranean chapter. No, we cannot put that because we have people from Portugal. Portugal is not in the Mediterranean. So that for thing we choose Mediterranean and related chapter.
Related. The R was for related. My bad.
For a better name, but this is the one that we have.
And there was a strong discussion about the name. We actually had a couple of weeks of discussion in the document.
Yeah, but finally, Marta and I would make it related to stop. But because we need the name with urgency to present the chapter.
Yes.
So, some OnDemand things.
So, well, I don't have a Tesla car, so is there any plugin for Kia or something? Sorry. No, sorry.
I don't know.
My question.
My old smart TV, if it really actually works. But there is a caveat there. You have to have access to the network where you can access the OnDemand session,
Sure.
of course. Sure. If you need a VPN and your device it's not able to connect to the VPN, you will not connect it.
Sure. Yeah, just kidding. No, my actual question is there any enterprise customer, non-academic customer using OnDemand?
Yes.
Any examples?
I cannot answer directly. They can.
Okay.
But we are, as HPCNow, we are inviting our customers. If they want an HPC portal, we suggest them to use OnDemand because it's easy to install. We actually develop an Ansible playbook to have an easier installation of it, and which also check if you have all the needed tools to install OnDemand. But yes, there are also private companies working with OnDemand. It's not only for public institution, anyone can use it.
Okay, and besides HPC, for the use case of I don't know, machine learning and that stuff. I mean, deploying kind of model training and all that stuff. Is Open on Demand also valid for that use case?
So for machine learning, I don't know. I really don't know. It's an interface. We have some case. I know some cases of deploying Open on Demand to get access to some cloud instance where you might be running your applications. But I really don't know if machine learning is something that it's in the radar of the Open on Demand network.
No. Just to comment, I saw that one of the development is determine AI on any scale. So it's targeting that kind of user need. Yes.
I mean, AI is coming, so likely Open on Demand will adapt to it. Couldn't you ask me tomorrow?
I could, but I'm on vacation tomorrow, so.
I know also, but on Monday.
So this is a more generic question, and it's not targeted to you, but you presented, so what's that? Sorry. Aren't we lowering the bar too much to HPC access, right? So, and just,
Question.
just let me explain, right? We don't expect anybody to jump in the highway with their car if they don't have a driving license, right? And HPC systems are very complex, but they are also very powerful, right? So you need to have some knowledge to get the most out of them. So isn't Open on Demand just opening the floodgates and see what happens and allowing untrained users to access to very expensive, very powerful resources without the requested knowledge?
Open on Demand is not the only one who is doing it. I mean, when I was accessing the HPC systems where I was accessing during my history, nobody required me a training or a knowledge about it. I had no idea, and I can do whatever. I literally blocked the queue of the first cluster I was working on because of my lack of knowledge. We discovered that we had a limit of the number of jobs that can be pending because of me. So we are already doing it. Open on Demand is just sort of easing this part, but also it's like the baby part of a skiing complex. So they are not actually accessing the whole bunch of the HPC, even though they have access to the shell. But if you have to know how to work from shell, because normally what Open on Demand allows you also is to restrict the amount of resources that the user might request through the button that they are clicking, because they are not they cannot. They can ask whatever you allow them to ask. So, for example, as I was saying before, you can allow the user to request or not for GPU nodes, for example. If you don't want them to run RStudio on GPU because of whatever reason, they will never able to access a GPU node, because there will be clicking button there that you tick it and you access to a GPU node. So yes, we are giving them a free access to a highway, but in a safe railway, let's say. I really think a bit about when you're in a ski park and there is all these different color rides that you can do, and there is the baby one, which is the small one for kids and for people that never ski in their life before. So yes, we are easing the access, but we are also controlling them a lot.
Thank you. I think it's more about enabling researchers to be able to use HPC rather than kind of babysitting them in order to use it.
Yeah, probably the question is more for the last talk, but we need to do some time. You know, if Open on Demand going to run over the containers or something like that, because it's make a little bit difficult to escalate like this, and it will be great to make more modules to move to containers. It's a little bit difficult.
What do you mean by running on containers? It can run containers. because the application can be spun as a module or as a container.
It ran the application in containers with different front ends, because at the end it spin different Nginx or something like that for the users, and will be great instead to have a monolithic application, will be have a microservice application, convert open on demand in a microservices that at the end are more or less that, but it's inside it's has a different applications running, has an Nginx, has an Apache, has a different applications inside that are running together, and one great point to scale it is to split it in different microservices. For example, one Nginx for user in one container. It should be okay. I don't know. It's a choose. If there are if it's not in the roadmap, I suggest to to take a look.
I have no idea about it, but it is possible to spin containerized applications. That is possible. And I also think that every application that you prepare and develop, they are the custom script. So you can do some magic in the background to spin almost whatever you like with just a nice icon to click for the user.
Inside the container. The on-demand user.
Why use on-demand for that?
What?
Why use open on-demand for that?
It's to isolate the users inside the server. This is okay. We try to do in Rush to split in containers to run in Kubernetes, and to try to split different containers depends on the number of users. But how it's did it, how it's make open on the it's really difficult and need to rebuild a lot of code. But it's not possible. It's not. I would say it's possible to do. It's but need to.
I don't think it's impossible. It's something that can be easy. It can be maybe implemented. If you think about that, when you have a lot of users, then you will not have a single instance of Open On Demand. You will redirect them with a load balancer to the different instances of Open On Demand that you have opened. So this maybe can be converted to a multi-container approach. That's a multi-users in a single container approach. I'm not sure about that.
Now it's how it's made the code need some work on that, but the architecture of the Open On Demand seems that allow to do that, but needs some.
Open a question in the discourse and we'll see how this goes on.
If I can add 5 cents here, I was involved in a European project that we were willing to use Open On Demand inside a container. And I was contacting the developers of Open On Demand. They told me that no. No. So you can have one Open On Demand for containerized for only one user.
No, exactly. No. This is, you have one front end. We want one front end, and when you split the session, you split it, you open some Nginx for the different applications. This Nginx will be great to run inside the container with all the stuff. It's not difficult, but it needs some change in the code.
So it's not containerized Open Demand. It's not this containerization. What is after the login in Open On Demand, all the stuff.
For us, it's like a microservice. You have a front end. You have a front end that can run in a microservices, and you have a lot of backends that run in another microservices. It's to reconvert the Open On Demand in a microservices. That's all.
That's something that we can ask to Open On Demand, that maybe they can put it in the roadmap.
Great.
Yes.
You should install Open On Demand.
Next. The simple question, but I haven't seen it. When you're doing when Open On Demand is helping you to write a new script for submitting, if you're asking for 8 CPUs, it's in some way writing in some tools or whatever software you're working with the number 8. I don't know if I'm...
So if they are converting the options that you are requesting, the resources that you are requesting inside the command line
Yes.
of the software.
Yes, because, well, we are finding a lot of people that are doing multi-threading with only one CPU, yeah? And this would help a lot, but I don't know if it's possible, really.
So in the way in which it's configured, it's actually possible, because all that comes from the web form, it goes to the Open On-Demand framework via a variable. So you can use this variable then to, so when you click on the button, you're actually triggering a script, a before script that is setting up everything that needs to be run. So if in this before script, you can create the script that will be launching the applications. It's there when you are tuning, for example, the options of the scheduler. So the number of CPUs, for example, or the memory. And this can also be used to be included in the application that you are running. Saying that, multi-thread on Open On-Demand, this is more, I see Open On-Demand more, at least for now, as a graphical interface for users that need graphical applications than to spinning some multi-node MPI or even OpenMP applications. I would not run BWA or some tools via Open On-Demand. If you need to run that, you come to me, we can work together with a script for a script, and we'll submit it.
Thanks.
But so related to this, you can use the templating functionality of Open On-Demand to provide the users an easier way to run some tools.
Yes.
Right, through the template, the submit
Command line submission.
Exactly.
Yes.
So just not using the button, but just the not the command line, the form to submit templated jobs. That way you can have a template to run some tools where you just specify the input, how many cores you want, and run it that way.
Yes, this is possible. And you can also block the fact that if you requested 8 core, then you cannot put there more than 8 core, or you can block to be exactly the same if you request one and not the other. Again, you can ask me tomorrow or Monday.
Well,
I know, we have time.
so it's possible to have a templates for this kind of jobs that Carlos mentioned. So instead of the user have to fill each time, tools, whatever, I want to launch an alignment. So I click here and it fills more automatically the stuff.
Yes,
Possible to have
definitely.
it.
This is something that is already there in Open On-Demand, because if you want to submit a graphical application, you can use the submit job part of the Open On-Demand interface, in which you can put as an administration whatever template you want. So you can just access the template and then you modify it according to your needs. For example, very basically, your input file and your output path. This is something that is needed to run your script, but you can provide the users with different templates, and they can also save their own templates to be maybe shared with other users. There are some very basic templates. You can decide whether to provide that or not. For a user that had no knowledge about HPC, that would have been magical for me. Because you don't have to go to the try and error to see how much memory I need for that. There will be something that magically.
Yes, I'm thinking in the use case that someone new arrives to a group and has to set up a bunch of simulations, and they have, well, this is the template that you have to use it. So this make their work a little bit easier and less prone to fail. So
if you go to the Open On-Demand instance you have access to, on the top, closer to the cluster shell access terminal, there is a submit job button. And if you go there, you have the interface that Hazel showed, and there is a template. I think it's on the right. There is a template, and you can decide what template to expose to the users. Yeah, you see them?
I'm checking it. I'm checking it. Oh, thanks.
Another question? Thinking about it? Okay, you keep thinking about it. So is there any other question from the audience? Otherwise, I'm going to ask things to the audience. So what thing or things do you think could be missing in Open On-Demand, or you would love to see it done in there?
Or else what we can do for make you adapting open on demand. What is missing?
The answer was clear.
Contact them and we will talk about it. He said the Ansible script. That's what we can say.
We will send you an Ansible script with a quotation. There is a feature that it's too green that Erika didn't put it in the slides, but we have now REST API access through Open On Demand.
It was way too green to put it in the slide.
So we have to test it, but we can connect to a fast API or whatever. Let's see, for example, I was working in a European project that was filling automatically the cluster where the job will run according to the features that the cluster. So let's say that we have one cluster in Norway that the electricity is super cheap, but the technology is super bad in that case, and another one that is running super fast in a place that has the electricity price super high. So when you submit the job, you can ask if you want to run it in a way that it's green or in a way that is fast. So according to what you put and the number of the cores and the memory and all this stuff, you can fill it in Open On Demand. So if we found that 2 years ago, we could do that, but in the moment that you can fill that in Open Demand, clicking a button, it will ask to an API for running a model that will predict which is the best cluster to run that, and it will return the results with a post, and you can have it in Open Demand.
If the rain walk together from that.
Yeah.
That is also true. It can be done also if you want to decide if you submit your workload, your script to the cluster or to the cloud instance you have access to.
Mm-hmm.
It's just defining. It is something that then you have your answer from the API, and then you decide which of the option to select when you want to, where to run. Hazel showed it. It wasn't there, but there was where to run the application. It was my HPC or HPC cluster. But you can run it, if you have different instances, you can also configure it so that you are spinning it wherever there are resources available. For example, you check the Grafana and you see that of the 3 sites you have access, that one is empty, no data connection because you don't have to rely on data, and you spin the session there because it will spin faster.
Yeah, maybe use the same REST API from Slurm to check the queue of 3 different clusters and send it automatically to one or the other. They catch a lot of applications, but we have still to test. We cannot promote it in that way.
I can actually select the queue. You can allow the user to select to which queue if you have different queues, to which queue to spin their session, if you want the user to be allowed to do that. If you don't want, you can restrict the queue. So they have access to different queues from the command line, but they have to know command line to do that. But from the portal, you just redirect them to the very slow bed interactive nodes.
And can you restrict by user to which queues can they submit and the cluster? For example, one user has access to 2 clusters and to these and those queue in these clusters, or is it just default cluster or all, for example?
You can have a default.
You can select 2 out of 5, for example?
That I'm not sure if
partitions, I mean.
If it's a possibility, might be. Then it depends on the scheduler.
Yeah, with Slurm, I mean.
Yeah, then it depends on the scheduler that you have on the back end of your Open On Demand. So if the scheduler allows that, why not? If the
I mean from the pull-down menu, when you select the queue.
Yes, you can.
Just to restrict to 2 queues, for example, to the slow one and to the short one, for example.
You can do what all these restrictions to the users. You can just code them in the Open On Demand form. You will make them.
Just.
It's Ruby. It's a simplified version of Ruby because it's some YAML converting to Ruby to be run then and then be. It's even same. You don't need to know Ruby to do Open On Demand.
And what's suggested?
A high level version, but for a simple Open On Demand installation, you don't need to know Ruby to do Open On Demand.
Any other comment from the public? So if not, let's thanks again, Erika.